As their relationship flourished, Mindy and Zack had finally taken the big step of moving in with one another. They decided to see how living a little bit away from the city would change their lives. They rented a cute, weathered cottage-style home in a rural area. After they had all their furniture moved in, they stood in front of the house looking around at their new environment. Mindy squeezed Zack's hand, her eyes wide with excitement on the great potential memories that would be made. "It's perfect," she breathed, "a real escape." Zack grinned. "Our escape," he corrected. The air was sweet with the smell of damp earth and honeysuckle. This was it, the beginning of their quiet life. Cardboard boxes littered the lawn like fallen brown leaves. Zack grunted, heaving a particularly heavy one marked, "Books." Mindy was humming, placing a pot of cheerful geraniums on the porch railing. That's when she saw him. Their neighbor, a man with a face like carved granite, sat on his porch swing, watching. His arms were crossed, his stare unwavering and cold. Mindy offered a tentative wave. The man just stared back. "Maybe he's just shy," Mindy said, more to convince herself than Zack. Armed with her grandmother's apple pie, still warm from the oven, she walked across the lawn. "Hello," she called out cheerfully. "I'm Mindy, your new neighbor. I brought you something." Wiggins Worterly looked at the pie as if it were a coiled snake. "Don't need it," he grumbled, not moving from his chair. "We keep to ourselves around here." Zack's attempt at connection fared no better. At the town's only hardware store, his friendly morning was met with silence. The owner, a burly man named Cramshawl, and a few other customers just stared at him. He asked for help finding a specific type of screw, and Kenny just grunted and pointed a thumb towards a back aisle without a word. The air was thick with an unspoken message: "You're not from here, and you aren't welcome." Among other incidents, there was the time Mindy was standing in her yard and one of the neighbors from across the street was walking with her children past the house looking slightly disgruntled and like she should be concerned for some reason. Mindy thought the silence from their neighbors was louder than any city traffic. Weeks turned into months. Mindy watched from her window as surrounding neighbor Bettna Warhead shared a laugh with a guy from down the street, Clinton Crabuckett. When Mindy stepped out to get the mail, the conversation would halt, their smiles would vanish, and they would turn away as if she were invisible. The isolation was obvious. The people in the town were jealous of her for no reason. They started rumors that most started to believe because they didn't know Mindy and Zack. They never even learned what the dirty rumors were that were being made up about them. The people in the community didn't know her or Zack, never spoke two words to them but had so much opinion about them as people. Most of the townspeople were churchgoers who used their time in church to gossip about others who lived in the town. Not something a true follower of the Most High would do at all. Mindy called Sophia because she always offered a plethora of sound advice on handling even the strangest of situations. Sophia listened and offered an opinion once Mindy stopped talking. Mindy was able to see things differently after the conversation. Zack had become a little frustrated at first because he had never experienced people who acted so strange and passive-aggressively to others they didn't know. They were creating noise campaigns, competing in strange ways, and taking other ridiculous actions. "That's it," Zack said, slamming the door a little too hard after another silent trip to the mailbox. "I'm done trying to be friendly to undeserving people. If they want to be miserable weirdos, fine. We'll just ignore them right back. We came here for us, not for them." He paced the small living room. "We don't need them." Mindy shook her head. "It's a shame, but let's be calm about it, Zack. No need to get upset about rude, covertly hostile people who have no class. I'm so over them." She looked out at the neglected patch of earth beside their cottage. "I'm going to start a garden," she announced. "It's something I have always wanted to do, and it will look beautiful, plus provide us with our favorite veggies." She winked an eye at Zack. Day after day, Mindy tilled the soil, planted seeds, and coaxed life from the dormant earth. A vibrant patch of green began to emerge. And every day, Wiggins sat on his porch and watched. He never spoke, never waved, but his eyes followed her every move. His constant stony silence was a weak attempt to create an unnerving presence. Some people are just ugly and miserable, Mindy thought to herself as she kept working in her successfully blooming garden. The sky turned dark one afternoon. The storm hit without warning, a furious onslaught of wind and rain. A crack of thunder as loud as a cannon shot shook the house. When the storm slowed, they saw it. A massive limb from Wiggins' ancient oak tree had snapped, crashing down and completely blocking the narrow driveway they both shared. Wiggins emerged from his house, his shoulders slumped. He walked slowly to the fallen limb, his usual stern expression replaced with one of weary resignation. He was just an old man, and this was a young man's job. He placed a hand on the splintered wood, the sheer size of the task seeming to crush him. Zack watched him for a moment. He looked at Mindy, who gave a slight nod. Without a word, Zack turned and went to the garage. The roar of a chainsaw suddenly ripped through the quiet afternoon. Wiggins looked up, startled, to see Zack methodically beginning to cut through the thickest part of the branch. An hour later, Zack was drenched in sweat, but the branch was now a manageable pile of logs. Mindy came out with a tall glass of iced water. They were excited about not having to buy wood for their fireplace for a while once the weather got cooler. The next morning, when Mindy opened the front door, she found a small basket sitting on the welcome mat. It was filled to the brim with ripe, red tomatoes, the same kind she had seen the neighbor down the street give to Wiggins. There was no note. There didn't need to be. It wasn't a grand transformation. But things began to shift. A few days later, Wiggins gave a curt nod as Zack drove by. At the hardware store, Kenny grunted, morning, without looking up from his newspaper. It wasn't friendship, not yet. But it was the beginning of acceptance. Some of the cold silence had been broken. That evening, Mindy and Zack sat on their porch swing, watching the fireflies. Mindy's garden was a riot of color. Across the lawn, Wiggins' porch was empty, but it no longer felt like a watchtower. They understood now that sometimes in certain communities, there will be many people who are overly unfriendly and that you can't rush people to change. You must let them come around on their own. Sometimes they will and sometimes they won't. That can create many missed opportunities. Sometimes, that may just be the way it was meant to be.